Hey guys, how's it going? Today we have the Audiocontrol DSP software we're looking at, and I just want to make a quick video on how to get into the tuning portion of the software. There's a few videos out there, a lot of them are helpful, a lot of them just get you confused, so I figured I'd make a video myself. First thing is, wire up your 12 volts and your ground to your DSP. Plug in your RCAs from the head unit or your line output converter or whatever you have, which you don't need because you can use the DSP as a line output converter. But bring your RCAs. I have an aftermarket Pioneer head unit. I bring my RCAs into the DSP. From the DSP, we go to the amplifier. Now, one thing is, if you're using an aftermarket head unit, you can use the RCAs to turn on the DSP, but in my situation, I already had a remote turn on wire there. You're gonna have to take the cover off the DSP to move a jumper to go from GTO, which is the great turn on technology, to remote turn on. Otherwise your amplifiers will be on all the time and you will be draining your batteries. Now another jumper that's in the DSP is you can go from 5 volts to 10 volts. And 5 volts is plenty for me. I'm getting a good clean signal, but if you need more, there's that capability, but they're actual jumpers in the DSP. Now let's get started. The input here is going to be your input view. That's the channels. So I have 1 and 2 for the front. On my head unit has the front left and front right. Rear is 3 and 4. Rear left, rear right. 5 and 6 are going to be my sub. 7 and 8 I'm not using. If you go up here, you're going to have the input gain light. Play something that is a good rich song that has good mid bass, good vocals, and adjust this. There's going to be a milk light. It's not showing up here. If it doesn't show up, exit the software and try again. Should show up. But the most accurate way is going to be using the lights on the DSP. Now the output view here, you're able to assign different channels to different things. As customary, I would use 1 and 2 for tweets. Mid-range is going to be 3 and 4, and then mid-bass is 5 and 6. Mid-bass. And then we have rear fill running passive on my system, and then we're gonna have 7, 9, and 10 doing the subs. And really you can just use 9 if you wanted to, since it's a mono signal. But with that being said, all right, here we have the channels that you're gonna assign. So since we got the front on 1 and 2, we're doing an active front stage. So we're gonna be feeding 1 and 2 front stage on 1 and 2. That's gonna be able to give us the front left and front right. So 1 is 1, front left for front driver, front right 2 passenger side. Same thing for 3 and 4, front driver, front passenger. Same thing for the mid bass. Make sure these are all turned off. For the rear, we're going to do 3 and 4. For the subs, we're going to do 5 on 9, and then 10 is going to be 6. Okay, here you can individually mute channels if you wanted to, and you can also assign. You can get the ACR3 knob, the volume knob. If you wanted to use it for full volume, system volume control, you would assign the levels here that you want to control. If you wanted to just use it for subwoofer, you would go here and then turn off everything else. The only thing I don't recommend is because it's an infinite turn, it doesn't have a stop. I wouldn't suggest it for a sub, but I'm using it as a full volume system control. Here we have the EQ You can EQ each individual driver or sets of drivers if you want to EQ them individually, or control the volume individually. This is a good way to also check to see if your speakers fader is correct. You can mute individual speakers. You can see if you want to see the driver tweeter is actually the driver tweeter and not the passenger. You can mute it here, or you can mute the passenger and just verify that your speakers are properly wired up. Also, you can use the house curve here if you want to. This is Audiocontrol's recommended EQ curve that is a good baseline setting that most people said they've liked it and they've left it alone. So it's going to be, once you're in here, you can EQ each individual driver or sets of drivers. If you're still learning, I would just stick to the 1 and 2, and then you can adjust your volume. Let's say your tweets are louder than your mid-range, you can turn down your tweets, or you can turn down your mid-range. Let's say your mid-range is overpowering everything else, you can turn it. Or you want more mid-bass and stuff like that. This Accubase is going to be for bass roll-off from factory systems where the bass is rolling off. This is not really intended for a system with an aftermarket head unit. If you do have an aftermarket head unit, turn off all your factory settings and turn up your volume 3/4 or all the way up to your distortion setting. And then start tuning it. And then once you have it tuned, then you can go into your head unit and start turning on loudness or messing with the sound hound and boost enhancer. Maybe don't use the dynamic bass boost or anything like that, but you can definitely use loudness or stuff like that. But this is intended for aftermarket head units, factory head units that have bass roll off. You can look up a video on the Audiocontrol website on how to set up Accubase. I'm gonna just skip that for now. Also, play with your polarity depending on the slope that you use. If you use 24 dB slope, your speakers are going to be in phase. There's an article on audiofrog.com on their tech blogs that you can read. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm just giving you my 2 cents here. But if you're using a 12 dB, use the 180 degree out of phase feature here, and you're able to see if maybe that works for you. Maybe it sounds better, maybe it brings a time alignment and centers the image or the sound stage to the front of your steering wheel, which is where you want it. So and that's where you would play with that. Now, speaking of time alignment, here's where you would get your measurements. Let's say you're doing the tweets, you would measure from your passenger tweet or your driver's side tweet. Here you would, let's say it's 37 inches, that's where you put 37 inches. Let's say you got the passenger side tweet and you measure from the tweeter to the headrest, and it's 56 inches, you would put 56 inches. And you would do that for every set of driver. And then you would just input the information here. Now for the crossover settings, if you have a good set of speakers, the manufacturer is going to have it on the manual. If not, you can contact them through email or calling them, and they will give you a baseline or the crossover settings for your sets of speakers. The only thing about Audiocontrol is that they only have 12 and 24 dB. According to Audiocontrol, there's supposed to be an update at the end of the month that's going to allow for the 18 dBs and different crossover slopes. So that's just what I'm using. I'm using 12 dB. So my tweet crossover setting, manufacturer recommended setting, was 3400. But since I don't have an 18 dB slope, I'm going to go, I might go 2500 and then use a 12 dB, a 12 dB slope. That way it's broader. It's still covering the 2400, but it's going a little bit further than 3500. So once we get the update, hopefully we can fine tune this. But that would be my tweets. So let's pretend we did have a 18 dB slope. My crossover setting for the tweets are 3400. For the mid-range, it's where the tweet left off, so 3400 down to 300. The recommended is 400. But in playing with my system and in my vehicle, 300 hertz is what worked for me, and then the mid bass picks up from 300 hertz down to 80 hertz, and then the sub picks up from 80 down to 25. Just let it play all the way down. This sub will have its natural roll off, so you don't have to worry about that. And then the rear fill, I'm running passive, so I would just match whatever crossover setting I have for the front and give it a full range signal since we're using the passive crossovers. Let's say you don't have subs, maybe play it down to 60 hertz. That way you can get a little bit more bass out of the doors. Or if you wanted to get more bass out of the doors, you can also just take this down to 60 and then let the sub play from 60 down. So, but usually pretty generic, it's 80 hertz on the mid bass, and then the sub picks up from there. If you want that upfront bass on the sub, you're gonna have the time alignment as well. In my situation, it's 45 inches. That's gonna give you that upfront bass, make it sound like the sub is coming from the front. So anyways, guys, this was just a quick and short video. Another thing I just wanna add before I leave is saving. You would click and hold, and it's gonna bring up this prompt, and then you can save your settings to whatever channel you want up here. And all four of these channels, if you're using the ACR3, see now I'm on memory 2. If you want to use memory 2 and still have full volume control, you still got to go in here and click on level. Okay, and let's say you have a tune and you want to save it. You would go to save as, yes, and then you would name it whatever you want, and then you would save it. As you can see right here, I already have a few tunes already saved, so hopefully this helps you guys out. If you have any questions, post them down below. I'm doing this to inform other people on how to use a DSP and how to use the software and start to get into it. If you're on the fence on going active, download the software, play with it, but going active from passive is night and day. I was on the fence about it. I thought it wasn't worth it, and it was a waste of money, and it wasn't necessary. But after getting this installed, I'm a believer. I mean, a lot of people don't like the Audiocontrol DSPs. Apparently they're not, the software is not as friendly. It's very glitchy. I've had no issues with it. Of course, it's not a Helix or a Moscone DSP, but it does the job. It's an affordable DSP. They're made in the USA, and they sound great. So I've had no issues with them. But if you're using an Audiocontrol DSP, this video is for you. Definitely go into active and start playing with your DSP and finding out what works for you guys. All right, guys, have a good night, good day. We'll see you on the next one.